Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Now let's give a warm welcome to our main speaker, Craig.
Hello, my name is Craig. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you, Laurie, for asking me to speak. Thank you, Stevie, for being clear as a bell. I'm not from Malibu, either. I am not even from Los Angeles or the surrounding areas. I'm from a town called Glasgow in a country called Scotland, where they have alcoholics. Therefore, a need for Alcoholics Anonymous. They have good AA in Scotland, actually. People get sober in it, just like AA everywhere else. I come from a town called Glasgow, which, if you don't know it, is kind of like the movie Braveheart set in Detroit in the 1970s. It's like Starsky and Hutch and Rob Roy. I have a perspective problem. That's why I keep coming here. I thought for a lot of my life I was something else. I thought I was not an alcoholic. In Scotland, sometimes it's hard to spot if you're an alcoholic, I think, but but not impossible. I had my first drink. I will talk about my drinking, by the way. I'm sometimes a bit nervous when people get up to the podium and they say, I'm not going to talk about my drinking. And I think, oh, well, why the fuck not? What, you embarrassed? What, didn't do any? It's all right, we let you in anyway. I'll talk a little bit about my drinking. I had my first drink when I was 10, actually. I had a little sip of beer, and nothing bad happened. And I stayed off a drink a day at a time till I was 13, which is more than I'd manage now without meetings, I tell you that. And I drank, I shared a bottle. I was speaking recently, actually. I used to talk about the people I drank with as a kid, and I talked about them, and I said, the neighborhood bad boy, Willie Wyatt, I talked about, and the other neighborhood bad boy, Stuart Reimer. And I realized as I spoke that they weren't the neighborhood bad boys, I was the neighborhood bad boy, and they drank with me. And so I apologize to them if they made it here. I shared a bottle of El Dorado fortified South African wine with a friend of mine when I was 14. We didn't have much to eat with it. It wasn't over a meal or anything. It was down the back at the railway tracks near my school, we drank a bottle of this noxious crap. If you're in any way associated with the Napa Vineyards, don't panic about El Dorado sweeping across America and taking your business. It's wino, wine. It's just... And I was 13, I got into a fight, I fell asleep in the street, I peed my pants, which we'll get back to in a minute, and I fought with a policeman, I got locked up, I got taken home, I woke up in my own urine, peeing my pants, that can often happen, and the feelings that I had the following morning of bewilderment and terror and what happened were not dissimilar to the feelings that I had pretty much every time I woke up after being drunk until I stopped drinking. I mentioned peeing my pants, and I think that's important. We call them trousers, but I think you know what I mean. And I was a bedwetter as a child, and I'll tell you that, I quite like saying that from the podium because I was deeply embarrassed by that when I first came to AA. I was horribly embarrassed by the fact that I was a bedwetter, both as a child and when I started drinking, it seemed to kind of come back. it was a little more intermittent, but and sometimes I was sleeping and I managed to kind of get the other person to believe that they were the one that peed the bed, but sometimes it may even have been a combination of both of us. I wasn't sleeping with a lot of sober people who were in full control of their bowels. Enough of such frivolity. And I mentioned Pete because I was deeply embarrassed by it. It was killing me. It would have killed me. I would have drank rather than tell you that I used to pee the bed when I was drunk. I mean, who gives a fuck? But I was terrified that you would find out. Very strange. But I stopped drinking when I was 29, and I haven't peed the bed since I stopped drinking. So I stopped wetting the bed before I was 30, and I think that's something for which, yeah, I deserve that round of applause. And I think Scotland is proud, a prouder nation, knowing that I am now continent, both sleeping and awake. Now I'm just showing off. If you're a newcomer, it may take some time. I was lucky. I drank a lot. I ruined a lot of relationships. I ruined a lot of mattresses. I ruined a lot of stuff. And it's a very familiar tale. And I remember one night I phoned the Samaritans. I didn't know about AA. So I phoned the Samaritans, and they said, we can't really do anything for you. I think I got a bad Samaritan. I think the Samaritan... But I was in a terrible mess, so I phoned up a guy who I knew, who knew a guy who was in AA, right? And I phoned, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I said, John, I'm sorry to wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, no, I'm awake. I said, oh, okay, look, I'm an alcoholic. He said, oh, yeah, I know. All right, we'll let that go by. I need to get Chris's number, because you know he's in AA. And he said, all right. Here's his number, but I have to tell you, the only reason I'm awake is I just got back from Chris's wedding. So this is his wedding night. But anyway, here's his phone number, and because he's not going on honeymoon until Monday. This was Saturday night. I didn't phone Chris. I found a place to curl up in my own urine and forgot all about it. And Chris phoned me on Monday morning and said, why didn't you phone me? I could have been in trouble. It's really important. Why didn't you phone me? And I thought at that point, I thought, who the fuck are those people? What on earth is he talking about? He wanted me to phone him on his wedding night at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, even now, I think that's a little bit fanatical, to be honest. But Chris, was one of a number of people who picked me up and saved my life. And I came through a treatment center. I came in and out of AA a little bit. I wasn't listening. I wasn't ready. My story was it took me 3 years to get a year. And finally, I went into a treatment center, which kind of suited the way I like to think of it myself. It was a very fancy place in just outside London, where they had treated members of the royal family. So, obviously, this was a good place for me to go. I had no money, and I was incontinent. So, they may even have thought I was a member of the royal family. Outside issue. I have no opinion on that. But I thought I was I thought I was kind of a rather beautiful and effete poet who was kind of falling on hard times. I thought of myself as Sebastian Flight. I was going to sit in this chair, a wheelchair, perhaps a wicker wheelchair, and hack consumptively into a lace hanky, while beautiful English society women cried softly nearby, whispering about the tragedy of it all. I was a 270-pound stand-up comedian who hadn't worked in a long time, and I was bright red. I was a big, fat Scottish person with a drink problem. I wasn't, in fact, an unconventional maverick or a genius. That path had been trodden before. It wasn't the road less traveled. And I had a very nice time in treatment. They gave me Heminevrin to stop which is a drug which stopped me feeling so bad when I was coming off the booze, because I used to feel really bad. And they gave me an anticonvulsant. And I said to the nurse as she was dishing out the pills, I said, I didn't come here to take pills. I didn't come here to take medication. And she was a member of the fellowship, and she said, you've been buying your drugs from guys in bathrooms that wear leather jackets. I'm a fucking nurse, take it. She was really great, and she was absolutely right, of course. She was a member of the medical profession. I had been buying drugs from guys who rode motorcycles, I mean. Not that there's anything wrong with, a motorcycling doctor, but okay, anyway, I digress. And I went through 2 months of this very nice treatment centre where I haven't had a drink since I've been there, so it worked. It got me into AA is what it did, and which has worked till now. And they were very kind, and they had a specific way of working which was very. It wouldn't be out of place perhaps in Malibu or other parts of LA. It was very kind of new agey, I suppose. Little tension. All right, don't drink and pray for me. But it was a little new agey, which is fine, But they were very. There was a lot of talk about. I don't even know if I'm correct when I say new agey, but there's lots of inner child stuff, and I wrote a letter to the 10-year-old version of myself, apologizing for the man I'd become and everything. And hey, which if that works, do it. Whatever. But I wrote. I did all that, and I came out of the treatment centre after 2 months, and I went to Glasgow. And I was asked to speak at a meeting in Glasgow on the south side of Glasgow, Wednesday night group. If you know anything about the meetings in Glasgow on the south side, which is a kind of rough meeting. There's a lot of tough guys there. Shipyard workers and guys who are kind of tough. And I spoke to them. You speak for 45 minutes in Glasgow, and I spoke to them for 45 minutes about their inner child and how perhaps they'd write. They should maybe write letters to themselves when they were 10. Apologizing for the men they'd become. Some of these guys were 30 years sober, more, some of them. And after the meeting, they were extraordinarily kind to me. They were, when I think about it now, they were very, very kind to me. They said, keep coming back some. That was really lovely, what you said. You keep coming back, because you're a great asset to this fellowship. They had me clocked. But they were just kind. That's the overwhelming thing I've found since I've been in it. If you're new, and there seems to be a lot of new people tonight, and if you are new, congratulations. Because most don't make it this far. Most die or have miserable fucking lives and then die. You're in a very elite group. You're in the elite of the mentally ill. You have arrived. You are part of a very special squadron of fuck-ups who know the way out. Kindness is the overwhelming, my overwhelming impression of years in AA. It's just that people are kind, and some people are unkind. But as a group, AA has been very kind to me, and I try as much as I can to be kind and tolerant back, especially when I don't feel like being that way. And I spoke a lot. I had a lot to say when I came in. I was a lot of, and I didn't really have a lot of questions either. I had a lot of, let's change the graphics for a start. This is, and I just had a lot to say, and people were tolerant, and they were spiritual, if you like, because I think spirituality is probably kindness. I think kindness and being nice to people. I used to think it was something to do with candles and aromatherapy. It may be an outside issue. I would hazard a guess. In my experience, I'll say this, that in my life, spirituality has been nothing to do with candles or aromatherapy. Or cute wee fucking cards with puppies on them. It's about, I think in fact, there's even a commitment free at the meeting. That's a spiritual opening for which, if you're a newcomer, go for it. Dive into it. It'll save your life. And you get to stay in the elite of the elite car park. There's no leaders, but there is a separate car park. Commitments are important. I took a commitment meeting when I was wasn't long sober, and it was a meeting which a lot of people had been attending who had a lot of issues with food, and I at that point had a real problem with that. I had a problem with people talking about their food issues in AA meetings. Now it's not often I'm listening, but when I am, I don't, blah blah blah, keep coming back, but then it was really, why are they talking about food? And so I took the tea and coffee commitment, and which involved bringing the food to the meeting. And I brought so much sugar to that meeting, you would not believe. I almost broke myself on cakes and pastries and little fancy fondant icing things. It was like a fucking tea party in there. I spent so much money. This was my resentment. I wanted the people who had, if I can stay away from sugar, and I was going, cake, fondant icing. I don't do that anymore. You know what? You got a problem? Whatever. But then, I'm not holding this up as a way to behave. This is how sick I was. I don't bring food to meetings anymore, and if I did, it would be protein or, something without sugar. Or maybe not, I don't know. I came to America when I was a couple of years sober, and I wanted to be in the film business. It was always my dream to be in the film business. In Scotland, if you want to be, work in Hollywood, it's a long commute. There's not a lot of people who have done it. There are some, but there's not a lot. And so it's not something that they tell you about in high school. They don't. The careers guy doesn't come around and say, "What about movies? What are you thinking of that?" You're tall. What about a policeman? But I came here when I was 2 years sober because I figured that I'd heard that they had AA in California, so I should be okay, and that I felt that strong enough after a couple of years to have a crack at something I'd always dreamed of doing. Something that I didn't even dare speak about beforehand. Now I work in the film business and I'm doing okay. So that's a miracle. That's a miracle. I came here and I was very unhappy with the way AA was run. And so rather than set about changing it, I didn't show up. Because sooner or later, a bunch of people who'd never met me would, of course, come looking for me to ask what they were doing wrong. And it's not that different, either. The AA is not run very differently. It's just I'm very quick to judge other people. Saves me doing anything about myself. Ooh. That's not from the Dalai Lama. That's just straight from me. I had a hard time a little bit with coming into it, and then I started to feel okay, and everything was all right. And then I got to about 5 years sober, and I started to feel very uncomfortable. I was going for my first AIDS test. My first AIDS test ever. And I was very worried about it because I'd behaved quite badly when I was out there drinking. Well, when I say badly, luckily, I suppose. Oh, come on. I had been promiscuous, I guess, when I was drinking. And I was very concerned about it. I felt very guilty about it. And I thought that I'm going to have AIDS, and if I have AIDS, I don't know if I can stay sober. And so I went for my test, and my sponsor, who's here tonight, and I spent a lot of time talking about the possibility of me having AIDS, which was tiny. But how would I stay sober if I got AIDS? And the answer seemed to be, keep coming, was a day at a time. I don't know how it would have worked out, because it came back that I didn't have AIDS and I didn't have HIV, but the fear was enough that I anticipated it, having it so much that I was ready to drink before I got the results. That's an alcoholic, I think. I'm ready to kill myself in case. Just think about that. I'm going to kill myself in case I'm ill. I wouldn't let me look after my fucking dogs. Think about that. But I was in bad shape around about that time. I've heard some people talk about it 5 years. They felt a little strange and a little odd, and I certainly did. I've heard other people say that it was a breeze and they went right on. I was very, very tense, very upset, very panicky. I had a panic attack which lasted, I think, most of whatever it was. I mean, it was almost a year. I was terrified, and I was going to a lot of different things. I actually went to Cedars-Sinai, and I found a doctor who was in the program. He'd had a number of years sober, and he said that he would be willing to prescribe me some kind of, I can't even remember what it was called. And I said, let me think about it. And I went out, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. It's not to say that you shouldn't do it. I didn't feel comfortable with it. And I was looking in lots of different places, and I wanted to feel better. I knew enough to know that if I had a drink, it wasn't going to fix anything. Nothing was going to get better. In fact, it was going to get a lot worse. But I was panicky. I felt trapped, and I went to a lot of different places. I ended up in a chiropractor's, a spiritual chiropractor in somewhere in Beverly Hills, where it's a woman who massages your aura, and. Hey, I was fucking uncomfortable, all right? I was really scared. So somebody says, I know a woman who massages your aura. Right, I'm there. And I go and I lie on this bench, and this woman comes in, and she did that above on my aura, I suppose, but removed from my body. And listen, if aura massage is helpful for you, you're perfectly entitled to do it. It's fine. This is just my story. And I had my aura massaged, and I came out, and I was still a little, and I was thinking maybe it takes time to sink in or take or something. I'm waiting for it to come on. And then as I'm writing the check for the aura massage, she said, just put the Aura Chiropractic Clinic, and then you can claim it on your insurance. And I said to her, doesn't that fuck with your aura? And that wasn't me saying that. I knew what I had to go back to after that, because that was the guys I heard in AA. That was that kind of healthy kind of weird cynicism that guys who, they will talk about your higher power in one breath and tell you to shut the fuck up in the next, and there's this a strange kind of pragmatic spirituality. This practicality that it may make you feel better having your aura massaged. However, it will not relieve your alcoholism. It will do nothing for my alcoholism having my aura massaged. Sadly. Because I wish it would sometimes. I wish it would be easier. I wish I could just write a check or something and be done. And a lot of times, I loved what you said, Stevie, about 4 o'clock in the morning and that line that's going to, you get 2 lines that are going to make you better, or I'll just have one more drink and then I'll be fine. For what? Make what better? It baffles me to this day. The illness is cunning, baffling, and powerful, and really odd to think that I'll have a line of something. I'll kill myself in case I have AIDS. I'll mentally ill, I think. Physically, mentally, and spiritually sick. A malady all over the place. And so after the aura incident, I went back to There's a men's meeting in Hollywood that I went back to. It's a crosstalk meeting. I actually have a hard time with the format of the meeting, but the guys there were so kind to me. And it kind of had to be a men's meeting for me. I don't know why. I think sometimes single sex things, I don't know where it is for the women. I've never been a woman. Well, once, but it was only, professionally. No, I've never. So I don't know what it's like to be a woman, but sometimes I think for guys, especially guys like me, it's nice to go where, you're not kind of distracted quite so easily. Sometimes. I'm revealing a little bit about myself. Yeah, just a little bit. And sometimes I feel more comfortable in meetings like that. It kind of concentrates for me, just for me. The time that I've spent in AA, my life has completely changed. I think, have changed. I think that the 12 steps and the friends that I've made in AA and the experience I've had in AA has produced a psychic change sufficient for this alcoholic to stop drinking. For now, I don't think it's a permanent thing. I think I get to keep it as long as I give it away, as long as I show up to AA, as long as I kind of apply myself to this, be part of it. You have to be part of it. Clancy says, and I'm not a big Clancy fan, but I like what he says about, and please don't take offense to this, but I like what he says about getting into the middle of the meeting. Get there and get into the meeting, hide there. He says that the people at the doors are, working for Satan, and they're saying, come on out, it's all right, you don't have to stay the whole meeting, isn't it? Which I don't believe in at all. They're greeters, that's why they're at the door. Or they couldn't get a seat or something. But Clancy likes to be dramatic, and why not? I used to say that I wasn't happy that I was an alcoholic, but I was happy that I knew I was an alcoholic. I've revised that. I'm happy I'm an alcoholic. I'm delighted to be an alcoholic now. I wasn't then. But I'm delighted to be one now because I know what to do about it. And there is a kind of great sense of relief, I think, in knowing that even when it gets really uncomfortable, gets really bad, and even although I fucking hate it sometimes, I know what I have to do. I have to come back. I have to do what I did when I felt well in AA. I have to do that stuff again. I have to show up and be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's a great line in a movie called Chariots of Fire. It's about a Scottish missionary who ran at the Olympics in 1926, I think, and his fiancée was very keen that he not run at the Olympics because they were about to go off and be missionaries in China, and he wouldn't run on a Sunday, but he would run at the Olympics, and his fiancée, there's a scene where his fiancée says to him, why are you even going to the Olympics? I thought we were going to go to China, and he says, I believe God made me for a purpose, and that purpose is China. But he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. And I believe God made me for a purpose. And that purpose is to be a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous, nothing else. However, when I live well, when I use whatever gifts I've been given, if I use the other stuff that I've got, I feel his pleasure. When I'm of service, if you like, in my own life, I feel his pleasure, and that's great. It's nice to be. I swear I've reached a point in my life where even when it feels okay, I'm not nervous about the time when it's not going to feel okay. When I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, I really can at the moment take it a day at a time. That amazes me. I never thought that would happen. And also, there's a story about Andre in London. And Andre was an old Irish fella who lived in London. And there was a meeting, not unlike this one, where maybe more like maybe Rodeo Drive in Hollywood, a very kind of fancy meeting. A lot of people were doing well and getting better and had a long time off drink. And Andre was in the meeting, and a guy came in, a drunk, Remember them? He came in and he tried to speak at one point, and all he could say was, ah. And he sat down. And everybody was kind of uncomfortable and embarrassed. And then Andre said, I'd just like to thank my friend there for speaking, and reminded me that when a drunk walks through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, the heavens fall silent as another human being is restored to dignity. That's what happened to me. I'm a bedwetting fuck-up. I'm a raggedy-ass fat guy. You know, I run around annoying people in bars, trying to be funny. Except not anymore. And there's another lie, you know, if you're new, I heard this one a lot, you know, that if you give up the alcohol and the drugs, you're no longer creative. That's a fucking lie. You're less creative than you thought you were. But you're not less creative. You have a chance. You enter the arena. My experience with drugs and alcohol, that I was standing outside there and said, I'm fucking creative, let me in! And there was no rush to open the doors. My life has changed a bit, and even in that regard. And that's my story, so that's what happened to me. My life got better in every way, including financial. When I came in, it's including my career. It's not to say that it will happen for everybody. It did happen to me, because I wanted to make films. If you're the type of person that I am, you can't make films and drink or do drugs at the same time. Some people can. I fucking can't. It's too hard to do either one. You know, I can't do it. I've had a tiny bit of success recently, and it has afforded me the opportunity to behave like an asshole on numerous occasions. In the film business, I'm sure, like many other businesses, or I'm sure a lot of you are in the film business, that a bit of success allows you, and in fact, is occasionally encouraged you behave like an asshole. I'm not gonna. Not for them. For me. I don't like it. I don't like going home feeling like that. I don't like that. I like the feeling of when a guy cuts me up in the freeway, I go ahead. I got a life. You know? Go. Fine. Well, you get 5 seconds of power in the freeway, take it. If that's all you fucking got, take it. I don't want it. I don't want to behave like that. I've noticed when I behave shittily, I feel like a shit. Don't want to feel like that. Don't want to feel like that. I'm delighted to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am honored to speak at this or any other meeting, or just to be in it. And a really hearty congratulations to the newcomer. You want to fucking watch. Good night.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.